Hey guys, Thomas the Solution here, aka Mustached, here to review 50 Shades Freed. Now, in the trilogy of the 50 Shades of Grey and the follow-up, which I already forgot what that movie was called, ranted about that whole thing. So I don't know why I decided to see this one, except to review it, get the 5 to 10 views, and not get paid by YouTube. So, I think that's a fair trade. Don't you guys think? Anyways, besides, once again, dissing YouTube for its stupid decisions, let's get into this movie. So, as I mentioned prior, I've seen the second one and did the whole thing about that. So here we are with, once again, Christian, or as I'll refer to him as Chris, just to make it shorter, and Anna, as they are now wed to each other, which makes Chris even more protective over her, and so on and so forth. So as that's going on about, we learn that some guy, who we later learn now is Jack Hyde, the Anna's previous boss, is trying to hack into the system, trying to ruin Chris's and Anna's world by getting involved, and so on and so forth. So, after they make it to their little place, that being the newlyweds, of course, they have to go into the erotic part of the movie, which happens quite a few times. In fact, if you were to have a drinking game based off of a review like this, that either revolved around the word sex or any sexual innuendo, you'd probably be dead. But that's the case in this. So we figure out that, I don't know if this was made known prior knowledge, but I guess her safe word is purple if you needed to know that information. So he chains her up and they indeed go at it. And when I say go at it, I of course mean they have sex. In that type of fashion. That erotic fashion that, they show and hint at a little bit. So Anna's talking with this female planner afterwards, and she's all giving her the attitude and stuff because, this planner's, giving Chris the eyes or whatever. We also learn that Anna now has two bodyguards that are, just out and about and ready to protect. One of them is named Sawyer, and I kind of forgot the name. I believe the other name was Voice Fox. I don't know if that was the case. That's what I wrote in my notes because that's what I heard, or that's what I remember hearing. So don't blame me if I don't remember perfectly. Anyways, she jokes about wanting to have a kid, and Chris sort of just plays it off like, nah, I'm not ready for that whole thing. So that is a part of this, the whole having a baby and whatnot. Anyways, she decides that she's gonna talk with one of her other friends, Hannah. They talk about the job and stuff like that, or whatever. So, Chris wants Anna to change her last name in the emails and, refer to herself as Mrs. Gray, just to get accustomed to that. And she was saying how she'll think about it and stuff like that. So they go to their secondary home, where they meet this architect, and this architect lays this is the lady, sorry, that was giving Chris the eyes, and then Anna lays down the business to this lady, like, nope, you're not gonna make eyes at my man. So as they make plans to design their new home, they see that this van is following them, and Anna is driving, so Chris is instructing her where to go. They get off the highway, and once they escape, they have car sex, essentially. So they make their way out, and she's like, she's like slowly making changes to him, making him shave his beard. Now she's like, essentially, getting at his hair and stuff. But she does find a gun and she brings it up to him, and he mentions how I think it like either belonged to one of the guards or someone else. I don't remember what he said, but anyway, that gets play later on in the movie. Meanwhile, Anna and one of her, I think it's one of her friends, Kate, go out to get a little drunk, and the guard already told Chris somehow, even though we see him there. I don't know how that all transpired, but anyway. Um, so she gets nabbed when she returns home late at night, and we see that it is indeed Jack Hyde who has grabbed her and has this knife. The lady guard, I forgot what her name is, stops him, and then they arrest him. So Chris ends up joining them, and then they're like, he's like trying to comfort her and stuff, and she's seeing like a tablet report when she's at work now. Uh, so when Anna returns home, uh, he brings her to what they refer to as the playroom. She does say the safe word because he keeps like teasing her, like to like get a little revenge on her for like not like listening to him, and like they talk about that and stuff like that. Uh, so we see that Chris sings a little song, and it pans out the movie a little bit. We see that she has a nightmare about how like Jack is gonna get back at her or whatever. So we see that that happens, and then after that little nightmare, she's like, "Oh, wake up!" And then like I believe it was ice cream off of his chest. That erotic thing where you lick things off people's chest or whatever. Uh, and then more sex happens, and that. So anyway, we meet once again. I believe it's Chris's brother. I think it is. I did question it at first, but then I think it later reveals that it is anyway. So anyway, uh, Anna sees this. I think it was her friend that was hanging out with the brother, and then they hug, and then she's like seeing that happen transpire, but she doesn't really make a big deal out of it. Out of it. So we see that later on that I don't know if her name that lady was Kate, but she ends up marrying the Chris's brother. So they go back to one of the rooms. Jack ends up saying, or ends up being set on bail because he was able to like make up this whole like she was onto him sort of ordeal. Um, and that freaks her out a little bit, but then she also finds out later on, like very shortly after, that she's also now pregnant. So she informs Chris of the pregnancy, and he's like upset because he's like, "Oh, you're my world, and you'll choose the child over me," and stuff like that. He ends up getting drunk. She ends up getting this note from Jack. I think it was from him. I did say in my notes most likely it was from him, or like it was her friend, and then afterwards she gets like a note from Jack. But the next morning happens, and Chris is all fine and better. Drunkenness is completely worn off. Not even like an after like effect or whatever, that sort of ordeal. But she's still upset because of all the things he said regardless. So she's walking about and ignoring him. And how he confined in the woman that taught him how to have the sex. So she gives him a choice to either, be a parent with her or she will do it by herself, essentially. But he doesn't immediately respond. He sort of just goes about yeah, his business, sorry. So, anyways, after that whole thing transpires, you know, Kate calls Anna, I believe, to like, just talk, and that really doesn't really go anywhere. But she, immediately after, gets a call from Jack, who now wants $5 million, or the sister-in-law gets it because he got her. So he throws the phone away, and now seeing that she needs to move, she gets the guard to go in another room, and she runs out, meets with this banker, but the banker contacts Chris, who sets up all the whole money thing, and then it does sound like it's like almost like a breakup call, essentially, from his end anyway. But Jack is giving her 3 more minutes to pull out giving him the money, or uh, the Kate, I believe it was, will get it. Sorry. Anyway, she gets pulled in by this lady who's like in Jack's sex role. Later on, we find out. I think that's what they meant. Anyway, um, so she smartly has the banker's phone, like she borrows it out, and she has her phone in her back pocket. So the the lady there who's taking her to Jack rids the first phone, the banker's phone, but she still has her phone, which apparently had a tracker on it all along. I don't know how that ended up there, but whatever. So, uh, he figures out, Chris, that being that something's up and that there will be 3 minutes to get there. Meanwhile, Jack slaps Anna down when she arrives, also kicking her in the gut, which would almost alarm her when she does wake up that, she could have lost a baby, potentially, if that had been the case. But anyways, Anna ended up shooting Jack down, and the police arrived just in time to arrest him. But she is placed in the hospital, again, after being kicked in the gut and slapped twice. I guess that hurt more than it looked like. I mean, it didn't look like it hurt that much, but then again, a kick in the gut, that could have been, that in itself probably could have been enough to, knock someone out, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, Jack's mother is there to comfort him. Uh, and he's trying to like talk to her while she's out, like saying how he does want the baby after all and stuff of that nature. So we do learn that Jack and him were apparently in the same foster home, and that how he was chosen over Chris, Chris, and then that's why he wanted vengeance all along, or stuff like that. So the movie does kind of meander a bit afterwards, showing Jake meeting or going to the grave of his official mother, like his birth mother. And we see a bunch of flashback of all the stuff they have been through, and then, they go into the playroom, and Chris, does the whole thing with Anna, and then, like, he kind of hints that there will be no more of it. I don't know. And then after, I don't know, I don't remember if it was like immediately after that or after the credits or whatever it was, but we do discover that they ended up having a boy. So that is 50 Shades Free, and, it sort of meanders about, it gets to the erotic parts, and, the stuff like that happens, and, the climax of course, revolving around this whole Jack Hyde situation and how that sort of slowly builds up. But, this movie does, like, in the first two, seems to more pander to the erotic stuff. So what is happening with Jack Hyde is sort of left in the background. Like, we see him that initial time, and then he kind of just lays back throughout the most of the movie until that call, until we see the bail, and we see it come back. So it's all that stuff. Um, I don't know if like it's a weird sentence to say, but since these two seem to be, previewed to very erotic behavior, I don't know if that type of behavior gets passed down like other stuff does. I don't know. So who knows? Maybe that boy will grow up and will be just like the two of them. I don't know. It's weird. As for this movie, I guess if you're into semi-erotic stuff, then you'll enjoy it, I guess. I don't know. It's a weird thing. You make fun of people have made fun of the books, and it's sort of like this sort of over exaggerated sort of set of stories, and I don't know if there's going to be like a follow up to it, or I don't know. So it has found its success in the books, and I don't, its movies have sort of, I guess, since there's three of them, I guess it has found its success. It has found its audience, whether, you liked it or, you got dragged into it. I don't know what your situation might have been, but whatever. Uh, as for me, I don't really care one way or the other. The whole erotic stuff, that's whatever. It's gonna happen in these types of movies, but there is all that other stuff that sort of has a bit more intrigue with, like, the whole Jack Hyde thing, but again, it does get pushed to the background. So I'll give this movie a 4 out of 10. It wasn't really, anything spectacular or anything too crazy. Um, just more erotic adventures with this new wed couple with a bit of, heist, or like, the threat of, whatever. But, everything works out just fine, whatever. So, I'm sure the writer, I don't know if the writer is male or female. I actually don't know. I've never read the stories, to be honest. So I don't even know who wrote these stories, but you know, again, if you're into that whole erotic scene, this movie will be right up your alley, I guess. Again, so that is my review of this 50 Shades Freed movie, and if you enjoyed this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out that link in the description. I'll head you over to my Patreon, and you can donate and actually, support me, unlike YouTube. There's another one for you. So, until next time, everyone. Bye!